Did you know that 71% of the people that watch Matthew Kelly's videos are not subscribers? That makes no sense. We need to change that. Subscribe today. Hit that subscribe button, smash that like button, and turn on those notifications so you never miss out on another great video ever again.
I remember when I was in my late teens, really when I first began to take my faith seriously, and I think most of us have an experience where we decide to make ourselves completely available to God, or we surrender, and I remember having one of those experiences, and then coming home, and my brother asked to borrow my golf clubs, and it was sort of this really stark experience, because I'd been at church and I basically said to God, all right, God, I'm 100% available. I surrender everything to you. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. And then I came home and my brother asked to borrow my golf, and I loved my golf clubs. And I'm like, all right, God, everything but the golf clubs, because my brother was a real hacker. There was no confidence. I had no confidence that these golf clubs would come back in any usable form if my brother took them to play golf with. So I think in our spiritual life, we do have this scenario where we give everything to God, or we surrender completely to God, and then we take it back little by little. How much have we taken back from God? How much are we surrendered to God? Today we're talking about Mary and her beautiful surrender, her wholehearted surrender. We talk about doing things wholeheartedly. To be honest, as human beings, we're not very good at doing things wholeheartedly. Our humanity gets in the way of that in lots of ways. And even when we do things wholeheartedly, we can be very inconsistent in that. So we might do something wholeheartedly today and then less than wholeheartedly tomorrow. Mary had this wholehearted surrender that was really powerful, beautiful, and of course changed the whole history of the world. And so we have so much to learn from her. Our culture is a culture of control. Our culture is a culture that tells us, we need to be in control. We need to be in control of things. We need to take control of things. And so we do, I think, fall into the trap of trying to control things, and even sometimes people. I think most parents wish at times they could control their little children, and of course you can't. They have minds and wills of their own, and they exercise them with reckless abandon often. And when you think about control, I think it's a good lesson for us spiritually to think about, okay, how little do we actually control? Like, what is it that you can actually control? And when you sit with that question, and even pen and paper, and start to write down, what is it that you can control? It's a fairly short list compared to all the possibilities that we encounter even in one day. And so we're faced with the reality that control is sort of a fool's errand, and that, as usual, the wisdom of God prevails, and the wisdom of God, the invitation of God, is not to control, but to surrender. And so Mary's life and her witness is an invitation to surrender to God, to surrender wholeheartedly to God, to surrender completely to God. Again, maybe it's the first time, but maybe you've done it 50 times, and that's okay. And if that's the case, maybe it's time to do it again. But today is an opportunity for us to think about, okay, What's in the way? What's holding me back? What are the obstacles to me surrendering wholeheartedly to God at this time in my life? Because it is in that surrender that we find so much of what we yearn for. Again, if you sit down and you make a list of what you yearn for, so much of what we yearn for will not come as a result of control, but will come as a result of surrender. Are you willing to surrender to God? Do you understand? Do you believe? Do you see the possibility that by surrendering to God, great things will happen?